Welcome back to the channel where Bob Doyle discusses the creative uses of AI. Today we're highlighting two new features on the NIM platform, VO3 and Stories.
You probably already knew that those two ladies were both generated by the VO3 technology, and we're going to be looking at a few other examples of that. But the real star of this video will be the new Stories feature that has been added to the NIM platform. Now, we just recently did a video on the NIM platform. It's another one of these all-in-one AI tool services, and they really have an impressive array of things to do here. If you click on the Create, just to give you an overview, you have three different choices here. Story, which we'll be looking at, Video, which gives you access to all of these video models, and they're always adding new ones. Under image generation, you have access to all of these models, including the latest Flux Context and the Google Imagen 4. Plus, they have a whole collection of other tools, like the ability to add sound and lip sync and do keyframes and more. Right now, let's look at just a few more examples of the VO3 generation done here on the platform. In our opening, you saw a couple of examples of me having just a YouTube influencer girl presenting an opening to our video. I'm going to show you some of the examples that I didn't use because they're all still very impressive. This was created strictly from a text prompt. There was no starting image for this. And here's the prompt. In a brightly colored modern studio filled with neon signs, soft lights, and quirky decor, a young female YouTube influencer with vibrant energy talks excitedly to the camera saying, "Today we're featuring two new features on the NIM platform, VO3 and Stories." She wears a blue and purple t-shirt that reads Bob Doyle Media. As she gestures enthusiastically, the atmosphere is upbeat and fun, and the camera starts with a tight shot, then slowly zooms out, capturing her lively expression and the playful energy of the studio. And now let's listen to what they gave us in terms of the sound and delivery.
Today we're featuring two new features on the NIM platform, VO3 and Stories.
So I really love the energy of the dynamic camera action. It really followed the prompt. The one thing I did have trouble with on many of these, as you will see, is getting the E at the end of Doyle to work. Most of them end up saying doily, but I did find a way to get around that, which I'll show you in just a moment. This is basically the same prompt, except that I gave her blue and purple hair.
Today we're highlighting two new features on the NIM platform, VO3 and Stories.
Because the VO3 videos are 8 seconds long, if you don't have enough text to fill that out, then you're going to get a little something extra at the end, which was her hand movement and even a little bit of music. Here is another example.
Welcome back to the channel where Bob Doyle discusses the creative uses of AI, featuring all the latest AI toys.
I noticed that at the end of the sentence, she just sort of said toys, and I looked at my prompt and I didn't put a period at the end. So this time I didn't just put a period, I put a full-on exclamation point.
Welcome back to the channel where Bob Doyle discusses the creative uses of AI, featuring all the latest AI toys.
So she did a little arm movement there, and her sentence ended more logically. And you'll notice that we got the Doyle right. And the way I did that was basically trying the capitalization strategy, which I've seen here and there, and it did work to fix the spelling. Here's just one more little sweet VO3 example. Then we're going to get into Stories. An old married couple sits side by side on a park bench. They're holding hands. I give them a little bit of dialogue to say, and it came up with this.
We did okay, didn't we?
You know what? We really did.
I love that. By the way, if you look closely, you'll see that they actually have two different VO3 models. One does not have the sound, and it's a little bit cheaper to run. Now let's talk about Stories. You can think of the Stories feature as a way to generate 10 faceless YouTube videos in less time than it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Just a fun piece of trivia, NIM tells me that this story feature was used by over 20,000 users on the day that it launched, and it had taken them 5 months to get that many users with both their image and their video functions combined. So clearly there is a demand for this type of solution. Now there are lots of platforms that have attempted a one prompt to a full video solution. Perfect for faceless videos. You just type a sentence and then it just does everything for you. And I have been underwhelmed, to say the least, by most of these solutions. But the Stories feature here on NIM is truly doing several things differently, and it's still a work in progress, so it's not in its final form here. Let me just show you a couple of examples here on the Explore page, and then I'll show you a few examples that I did myself. Let's just choose this example here, History of High Heels, and we'll see the prompt that was used to create this was, explain how high heels were first worn by man. It doesn't tell the whole story. The script isn't there to say how high heels were first worn by men. You tell the system to do it, and it goes and does the research for you. Then it creates all the images, and it does all the animation and all the captioning, even adding music. Here the prompt was explain how high heels were first worn by man. The visual style, which you get to choose, is felt puppets. Tone of voice, you get to choose how long each scene is. You get to choose the voice and whether or not there are captions in every scene or not. Let's just look at a few seconds of this example.
The origin of high heels is rooted not in fashion, but in the 10th century Persian cavalry. Elevated heels fashioned from stacked leather were an essential tool, ensuring riders' feet remained stable in the stirrups as they maneuvered on horseback.
So you'll notice that the animation on this is just basically a slideshow. If we want to animate each of these slides and bring them really to life, we would click the Animate Scene. And now we get to choose the video model we want to use to bring those scenes to life. We can use Kling 2.1, which I highly recommend, but we also have Frame Pack, Kling Pro, Kling Standard, WAN, and LTX, all of course with different price points. And I know this sounds cliche, but let me show you how easy it is to generate one of these videos. So for this story, let's say something like, why are diamonds so expensive when they're not actually rare? I've chosen story here, and here is where I choose the aspect ratio. I'm going to go 16:9 as my favorite. And now you get to choose the total length of your video, 10 to 20 seconds all the way up to a full minute. Just to keep things sane here, I'll do the 20 to 40 seconds. Controls is where the magic happens. Here's where you choose the visual style, and they've got a lot to choose from, and they're all pretty impressive. Eccentric film. We've got VHS nostalgia, the POV stuff. We've got the felt puppets. I've tried a lot of these things, and they all look really, really good. So you would choose the visual style, and it will automatically suggest an image model for that style. You can override it, of course, and choose whatever model you want. I'll choose GPT image here, and the tone of voice, maybe explainer, or maybe historian. And now I can choose the voice I want. There's a drop down here, and I can just preview them by clicking the play arrow.
Hello, this is an AI voice.
Hello, this is an AI voice.
Hello, this is an AI voice test.
Hello, this is an AI voice test. How do you like my voice?
I'm going to use Callum here, and we'll go ahead and let it caption all scenes. And because this longer story is going to be made up of various scenes, we get to choose the scene length, 2 to 3 seconds or 3 to 5 seconds. Because I've chosen the GPT model, I have the option to go medium or high. If I go high, it's going to cost me 300 credits. If I go medium, it's going to cost me 100 credits. I've actually never done a medium generation, so why don't I just go ahead and do that to see what we get. So I'll click on generate here. It goes to work. What we get back is basically a still image slideshow with just the slightest bit of animation, so we can preview everything and decide whether or not we want to actually take it to the next step for the animation. But here's what the slideshow basically looks like here, and we'll see what it did with the story.
Diamonds, by geological standards, are not especially rare. In fact, global mines yield over 100 million carats annually, making them more common than rubies or emeralds. The reason for their immense value lies in a historic cartel, most notably De Beers, who tightly controlled supply, meticulously regulating how many gems entered the market. Equally pivotal was marketing. The phrase "a diamond is forever" infused the stone with cultural meaning. Thus, diamond prices reflect not innate scarcity, but rather careful supply management, expert branding, and deeply embedded societal traditions.
Ooh, we're gonna break the internet with this scoop. Now I'm gonna show you a few examples where you see each phase of the process. So we start, of course, with the prompt. An old woman turns into a superhero at the grocery store whenever someone can't find an item. That was all I gave it. I chose the slapstick cartoon style. Let it choose the tone of voice on its own. Remember, this was my first one. 3 to 5 second scene. I chose Lucas as the voice, captioned all the scenes, the video length 20 to 40 seconds. It came up with 14 scenes, and it chose its own background music. And as I mentioned before, the first iteration here basically generates a slideshow of the still images and puts the audio on top of it.
Meet Mildred Jensen, a regular at Maplewood's Grocery Galore, floral cart in tow, cinnamon roll in mind. Most folks see just a gentle woman combing the shelves for yogurt past its prime.
So I see that in a lot of the other solutions like this, and I'm like, that's okay, but that's not that exciting. But that's where the magic of Animate Scenes comes in. I clicked on Animate Scene, and I chose Kling 2.1 as my animator, and here's what it did with it.
Meet Mildred Jensen, a regular at Maplewood's Grocery Galore, floral cart in tow, cinnamon roll in mind. Most folks see just a gentle woman combing the shelves for yogurt past its prime. But when someone's lost, struggling with pudding mixes or hunting for gluten-free crackers, Mildred's eyes brighten. She stands a little straighter. Suddenly she's the locator, master of the store's secret map. Almond butter, aisle 7, middle shelf, right beside the sunflower butter, she'll say. Grateful smiles exchanged, she fades quietly back, Maplewood's most heroic shopper blending into the aisles once more.
As I say, it's not perfect, but it's definitely one of the better one-click solutions I've seen. In the near future, we will have the ability to go in and edit the story and fix any of the images that we didn't like. For example, Mildred isn't that consistent throughout this thing. They just kind of show random older women and sometimes younger women. But these are much more compelling to look at and even listen to than any of the other solutions I've seen, which still come across as very AI, especially in the voice. And I find that, at least in this example, it may not be the perfect voice for this script, but it does sound more natural than a lot of the solutions I've seen. Here the prompt was: an old married couple are sitting next to each other holding hands on the park bench. It begins to snow lightly. As the camera dollies around them, we see that they are looking at events from their past, the moment when they met, when they first knew they were in love, when they first got married, and started a family. I'll turn off the audio for now just to show you that, again, it just came up with a series of still images. It did all the voiceover and the music, and we've got the captions and all of that. And then it was just a matter of animating it. So again, I used Kling 2.1 Pro and got this.
In a world hushed by falling snow, two souls sit side by side on a bench. Time itself dares not disturb them. Their fingers, gnarled yet unbroken, intertwine. Ancient, indomitable, warmed by memory's fire. As the snow drifts, the present blurs, glimpses flicker in their eyes. Laughter from a distant party, sunlight pouring over dusty library shelves. A nervous touch under gleaming chandeliers, hope trembling with every stolen glance. Across crowded rooms, uncertain hands once found each other. Uncertainty gave way to fate. The snow thickens, but rings gleam on their fingers, unbowed by passing years. A family's laughter, the hush of a nursery, the ache and pride of building something real together. Forgotten names, faces cherished or lost to time. Yet what endures, what outlasts the winters, is the quiet certainty in a shared silence. On this bench, beneath a world made new and white, two hearts beat onward, echoes of a love forged in every season.
So 54 seconds with one prompt, and it did all the editing. Here's one where I tried the felt puppet style, and Brian and Linda are two kids digging for seashells on the beach when they suddenly find an amazing golden starfish that offers them 3 wishes. But they say, no thanks, and throw him back in the ocean as he screams, but wait. Okay, so obviously I gave it a little more direction there, but certainly didn't give it tons and tons of detail.
What is it about kids and treasure hunts on beaches? Brian and Linda are digging for seashells with the kind of intensity I usually reserve for finding the remote in my own couch. Suddenly, bam, a golden starfish, sparkling like it just won the lottery. It actually talks. 3 wishes, anything, castles, adventures, magic, you name it.
I suppose my biggest observation on that one is that the characters aren't really consistent from scene, but if you have played with a lot of these options, I'm fairly certain you'll agree with me that this is another level of quality. I did a comparison between the Kling 2.1 Standard and the Kling 2.1 Pro model. I threw the prompt the question, what would an awkward family photo session look like with a family of hillbillies with crazy eyes, teeth, and hair and clothes? I used the caricature visual model for this, and as I say, chose Kling Standard.
Step into the photo studio where socks are optional and the raccoon is, unfortunately, not alive. Grandpa's showing off his winning grin. He's got 3 teeth, but who's counting? Dad's pinky is exploring his molars. Mum's got curlers rocking. And the kids? One's crossing eyes, another's brandishing a rubber snake, and nobody's matching anything, especially socks. There's a chicken, there's a missing shoe, probably related. Everyone's squinting, slouching, or mid-sneeze.
Here's the exact same prompt, but with the Kling 2.1 Pro model.
Step into the photo studio where socks are optional and the raccoon is, unfortunately, not alive. Grandpa's showing off his winning grin. He's got 3 teeth, but who's counting? Dad's pinky is exploring his molars. Mum's got curlers rocking. And the kids? One's crossing eyes, another's brandishing a rubber snake, and nobody's matching anything, especially socks. There's a chicken, there's a missing shoe, probably related. Everyone's squinting, slouching, or mid-sneeze. You ever see a family portrait where even the taxidermy looks embarrassed? Welcome to the Hillbilly Edition.
He almost puts it in his mouth. What would happen if Bigfoot and the Easter Bunny were best friends?
In the quiet heart of a misty forest, Bigfoot followed a winding trail of pastel eggs. At the end of the path, the Easter Bunny was prepping for the holiday, balancing a basket nearly twice his size.
We've got a gender issue there.
Curiosity sparked a connection. Soon, Bigfoot lent his strength ferrying eggs over rocky rivers and into forgotten mountain cabins, places...
I consider this a huge step in the right direction for this kind of thing. Being able to have control over the visual style by choosing the image model and by choosing the video model and being able to choose whether or not captions are there, being able to choose the voices. It's a lot of flexibility, and I'm very curious to see how this thing evolves over time. If these are the types of tools you'd like to learn more about, well, stick around this channel. Why not subscribe? Because this is exactly the type of thing we cover all the time.
If you subscribe now, I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you do not, I will look for you. I will find you. And I...